Hello guys, and welcome to another video with ZIMALETA. And in today's video I want to talk about starting a hardwood flooring business or any kind of business that has to do with like home remodeling. We're going to talk about real estate investing, and we're going to look at things like what I should be doing, what makes sense for me, and that should actually somehow make you think about what you should be doing, and if it makes sense, kind of what you're doing and the way you're doing things, because this topic could be kind of like interesting, but it's a way of brainstorming for me, and kind of like figuring out like what's the next way for me, like for growth, because I feel that it is time for me to grow. I need to grow somewhere. So you guys know I've been making sprinter videos for a while, and you've seen all those videos with content. I got expedite videos and stuff like that. But what a lot of you guys either know or don't know, I started out as doing home remodeling actually, and I know like you guys gonna say like, oh, well, because a lot of the stuff that I did in my home I didn't have experience for. Because when I started home remodeling, I first worked with a guy, and which was my neighbor. He hired me basically, and he said, "Hey, can you help me do drywall?" I said yes, and actual, well, the drywall was like, like just a couple of jobs what we did, and he really liked what I did, and he says, "Where were you at all my life?" and stuff like that. Like he was really happy like with my service. And then of course, he found out later on that I used to work for a steel company for a year and a half, and I've learned how to weld, cut, and grind. I've learned how to read blueprints, and I've learned how to really read a tape measure, because not a lot of people know how to read a tape measure, believe it or not. And I knew how to do that because I had that job for a year and a half. And he says, "Hey, I got this job. We gotta build a shed for somebody. It's 10 by 12. I need you for this thing. Do you know how to read blueprints, right?" And I'm like, "Yep, I know." And he shows me the blueprints. I'm like, "Yeah, this is easy, So I have to create a cut list for this, just like I would with steel. I would read a blueprint. I'm like, okay, this is what we need. This type of degrees, this type of angles, and you go cut it." So I use the same knowledge from when I used to work for a steel company, cutting steel, but cutting wood this time, for this whole project. So he gives me this whole project. It tells me how many 2x4s, 2x6s, and everything else that we need, and it basically tells you already like what kind of angles, degrees, because it was actually designed by like a professional, and he bought those blueprints. So anyways, I got in there and I cut everything for him, and I did that. And then from then on, actually, I started working with the guy, and he really appreciated my business, like my services and stuff like that. And I was doing stuff like drywall. We would add sometimes like a little partition, change some doors out for people, and do some installation. But mainly drywall, painting. That's what we did. But we had some jobs that we had to do like flooring, and like that was like just like one job, you know. And I realized that it took like 3 days of us, 3 days for us to do a flooring job. And on the first day, one of the workers quit. And on the third day, both worker and the owner did not show up. I was the only one that showed up to work, and I finished the job. I finished the whole space to do hardwood floors. And I've learned at the time, like, it's not difficult to do this hardwood floors, and I've learned all this other stuff, like how to, like, I've gained experience basically with working with wood, and I really liked working with wood. And I kind of thought, I should start a home remodeling type of business, just go to business for myself. And I did that after already not working for this guy for a while. I actually, after working for this guy, like I was just thinking about these things, but I didn't have any money to buy my own van and this other stuff. So I got my certified nurse's assistant certificate. I went and I got some education for that, and I started basically working in nursing. And I worked, I can't remember now, I think like close to 5 years. I know solid 3 years I worked there. But it's so confusing because I was working 90 hours a week, guys, and all kinds of jobs. So I was not only working certified nurse assistant. That's why it is so confusing. But anyways, guys, every time I was a certified nurse assistant, just working at somebody's home, because I was a home type of a CNA, working for pretty much wealthy people, and I would be there, and a lot of times you just kind of like sitting there, nobody needs your assistant at the moment. So you have a lot of downtime. You could just kind of like sit and relax and think about it. So I'm kind of thinking, okay, I'm gonna look at this magazine. There was like, I mean, a newspaper, and at the time you would look at newspaper instead of even Craigslist, like, for job listings, like, for like uh, people are asking, for this to get done or that to be done, and there would be like commercials and ads. So I looked through the car paper, and I've seen a pickup truck. I was gonna like buy a Chevy, Sierra at the time, and it was like $3,500, and I was kind of thinking maybe I should buy that and start doing home remodeling stuff like that. But also around the same time, I was thinking about getting married, and that kind of dominated because I needed to make sure I had enough money for the wedding and everything, and I kind of had to put that aside. But once I got married and my wife actually came here from Russia, I actually opened up my company, which was called ZIMALETA Home Remodeling and Renovating. And my very first job I got was, I had to basically do a two-story house with a shed. I needed to replace all rotted wood on the house and the shed. I needed to add some gutters. I needed to replace some of the siding that they had, because they had this wood siding. It was like white panels that was painted. Some of them were rotted, and I bought some siding like that, and I replaced it. For them, I replaced some window trim, some shed had the trim I had to replace. Yeah, I already said I added the gutter, and then I painted the whole thing. So I charged like $5,000 for that project, and I did more jobs like that, and I kind of figured like, wow, I could actually make money really quickly with this home remodeling thing. And this was 2007, and the economy crashed. So my dad, he was always in the trucking industry. And he was driving a truck since like 1997, and I didn't want to be in a truck. I didn't want to. I don't want to get a semi truck. I just kind of felt like wow, like what a waste of time. Like I really thought it was a waste of time for him doing that. Plus, it's a big rig. You always have to look for parking. Like where can you park it? You can't park it at home, stuff like that. So a lot of times you have to like pay for parking, and you really can't use that semi for anything else except like working on it. Like to me, like it didn't feel like it didn't make sense owning a big rig like that you cannot use for nothing else except make deliveries. So I didn't want to do that. Plus, with a semi truck, you always have to park at a truck stop. Even when you're traveling cross country, it's not like you get to really travel. You're seeing the road and everything, but it does not like feel like a vacation at all. So I didn't want to be in trucking. I actually went out with my dad for 3 weeks, and I kind of felt like homesick. I wasn't sick, but I kind of thinking, man, I miss home. Like I can't stand being on the road. Like that's the way I felt. So that was like back in like 2000, and I didn't even think about that anymore. So not until 2007 that I gave this a second thought. I told my wife, I said, listen, we're not going to have, if this continues with the home remodeling thing, like the way it is, we're not going to get any more work. And at the time, the economy still hasn't crashed, but it was really slowing down. It kind of crashed around like 2008, 9, type of years. And so I proposed, buying a Sprinter van. The only reason I found out about it is actually my dad happened to ask me, can I look up a Sprinter van for him, because he wanted to buy one, but he didn't. I bought one instead, and I realized that I could actually use it for expedite. I didn't see anybody that was doing expedite. I wish I would have seen somebody that was doing expedite. I would have like started in it like right away, like before even anything else. Like I told you guys in that other video, but I didn't know about it. So that's why it's important to share, information with other people, like, and just find out what's out there. But right now, there's other things that I could be doing that even is better than expediting, and I'm still looking for that stuff. Like nobody really came up to me and said, hey, you could actually do this, and that's gonna like make you a bunch of money. Like that's what mentors are for. And right now, I'm really thankful that I have a mentor. His name is Serge. He's a real estate investor. He's a really successful guy. And this guy never puts me down at all. Like I'm really like surprised, because I'm used to like all my life be made fun of, all my ideas, all my plans. Yet I was actually successful at actually, going through with everything that I said I was gonna do. But the problem is a lot of times it's taking action. Like you have to take action in order to actually basically do something with it. So anyways, that being said, let's get back to me, like how I chose like expediting. Like I got into this van. I started actually expediting, and obviously I left home remodeling and renovating type of area, and then a year and a half later, expediting was like pretty much pretty bad. Like I could not actually sustain my family with expediting. So I knew that it was actually a mistake buying a Sprinter, brand new Sprinter for a payment because I owed money on it. And actually I lost a Sprinter to the bank. So I had to start all over. And I failed 2 times like that in expedite. Like one time I lost a Sprinter to the bank, and that was a fail. And then another times I failed is when I actually left expedite in 2011 and sold off everything. Just like sold, I had a Chevy Expressman, sold my 2002 Sprinter, sold it, got out of it, and I kind of thought, you know what, I could be probably doing something else, and I could not find that next thing. I could not do it because you need a van for that. Like if I would do like some kind of like even like hardwood floors or any kind of painting, you need a van for that. I had an Audi TT. I bought that, and I kind of figured, you know what, I'm gonna focus on something else. I don't even know what I was thinking, but obviously it did not work out, and I had to go back to expedite. And I also experimented with having drivers, which that was in 2010. That was actually pretty successful. I've seen there was some revenue there, some cash flow, but it's really hard to really calculate because there's a lot of expenses involved. That so it's not going to be the focus of this video. Eventually, I will talk about that again. I know I've talked about it in the past, but not the purpose of this video. Where I'm kind of going with this is the very next thing is obviously I've been expediting all this time. Spent 12 years expediting. So I feel that naturally I need to actually grow into something else, become a little bit more professional. So the only way I could really grow is I only know of 2 ways, and now there's a third way of growing, which is YouTube. I mentioned that like in a very first video. Growing with basically just ads and commercials and all that good stuff. We're just gonna put that aside. But the main two that I kind of think about growing is one of them was going to be, of course, and I have other ones that come up since then. But main one would be just taking my expedite experience, right, and just like launching my own expedite company because I know what I'm doing. I could do it, So that is like one of them. Or I could continue just driving like I am, and I could be focusing on my, still making these YouTube videos, just kind of like just staying regular expedite, and having the time because I'm on the road a lot. I'm having the time now to actually make the videos that I would like to make. Plus, I'm traveling, so I could see how I could actually use that and monetize that extra time. So I see a way of doing it. But the very next other thing is like, I'm thinking, okay, I know how to do a lot of home remodeling now. So I started looking at this, and I contacted Serge, my mentor, because it is important to have mentors. And Serge has a very successful flooring business, and he does any kind of flooring. Very professional guy. He's well known across the whole country. He does big hotel chains, like huge hotel chains. And he's a real successful guy. He's got also Sprinter vans, and he's got crews that's working for him. So I'm kind of thinking, you know what? I have all these Sprinter vans. What if I fix them? Like, I don't feel like about selling them because I feel that Sprinters are a way for me to continue making income. Like, they could be producing basically cash flow for me. So I kind of, talk about Serge. I'm thinking, listen, I know I recently did some roofing, and I didn't mind it so much with roofing. Of course, it wasn't hot, and it wasn't like, sticky weather outside. I did a roof, just using like 10 cases of roofing. It was hard work, but I see myself doing it. Like it wasn't too bad because there's a lot of money in roofing, and I've tried everything else. I've installed my kitchen. I've installed some granite here. I've installed, flooring and drywall and painting, like all kinds of stuff. I know how to do a variety of stuff now. So I started kind of thinking, well, which one of these, like if I had to choose one, what would I really choose? And it felt that I could actually choose flooring and stick with flooring, and that would be like something that I would be doing. Why flooring? And specifically wood flooring is actually what I would want to get into. I like the smell of wood. I like wood. I like working with my hands. since I worked on my property in like for the past month, I've been just like working at it. I feel a lot better now, like working physically because I wasn't really used to it. So I see that if I continue doing it, it's actually gonna be good for my health, and I could see like where I'm gonna grow because I have other vans. I could put crews on them, and I could see like where that's gonna grow. Like I could see it, and of course, having a mentor like Serge, he could, point me in the right direction, where this thing is kind of like would lead if I would choose to do that. Um, but I'm kind of thinking, I'm having like second thoughts because of this YouTube thing and these videos, and I'm enjoying making those. I always have to kind of look back and see like what I have, uh, and seeing like if that's actually the next thing, because any one of these things, whatever you choose, you almost have to choose like one thing. A problem with me was choosing a lot of different things to do, and I don't have a primary focus. That means that ultimately I'll probably make less money doing it, and probably cannot be very good at one simple thing. Um, but the problem I see with making like doing like hardwood floors, and that could be like with any type of home remodeling, is this. I mean, it is actually great for cash flow. It's just I'm making this example for me because I see like another way of doing things. Like the way I look at hardwood floors or any home remodeling is you using your hands and you using basically physical power to try to do it. You're also using mental power. Okay, in order to get good at it, you really have to study up. You got to get experience, and you got to really get good at it. You have to practice to do that. And then there's another side. If you work with your mind, it is a mental thing, and you just simply basically, it takes about the same amount of effort to use your head in order to actually start doing something else using your head, like some kind of investments, finding deals, making deals, something along those lines. That might not be physical. It is completely mental. It's gonna make probably that or more money than the actual flooring business. And after a while, you could scale a lot faster if you're just using your mind. If you're using physical, you're kind of limited to your own self, physical resource, um, in your time, because even though you're a boss, like everybody immediately thinks, oh, I'm gonna start this flooring business. I'm gonna be a boss. I'm gonna like have crews, and they're gonna go out there and they're gonna like do the job for me, and I'm gonna get paid. And that's not as easy as it sounds. Like it's not gonna really work like that, because here's what happens. I talk to many different guys that's like in different kind of fields. They have crews. That crew go out there, and you don't see what they're doing. A lot of times they do a good job. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they take your van and tools and they actually get work next door, and they're working on a project next door while you're thinking they're working on your project. Listen, I've talked to a guy that was actually doing flooring. He's out of Seattle, and no, he's out of Portland, Oregon, and he had to kind of like leave that type of business because it's kind of like really hard. Like he's a really good like manager. He used to be I think like a CEO back in like St. Petersburg, and a real smart guy. And he said that's what was happening. His team would basically go out there and they're doing work, and he's thinking like, why are they slow? Because he's like not there because he can't monitor everybody, but they're doing work, uh, you know, at somebody else's property, you know, and that was a problem. This is like not the only time I've heard this happen, and you have to then think about what to do. Like you're either firing these guys or you either having them to split that revenue because they are using your tools, they're using your vans and stuff like that. Like and it's like that is just like one side of it. Like that's like this is not even like to scare you or like nothing because I don't want to do that. Um, but anyways, my point is you can't simply leave something alone and call it cash flow. Like that's like not really cash flow. You have to be in there. That means you yourself is physically present at that location, and you're like you might be working with the team, because you're trying to get this job out there. So before you know it, you're actually working. And I worked in pool brick and tile as well, guys, back in Florida, and that boss, He was just sort of standing there. Like he had a team of like 7 of us, and I was the one that's always working too. And he would just be standing monitoring like what we're doing, and that's it. You know, we did a good job, but still he had to be there. So like I'm thinking, is there anything else that I could be doing instead of actually being there at at that location monitoring my work? And that is actually using your head to actually find deals, and maybe you could actually sell those deals. Maybe you ultimately becoming a broker and you're selling these deals, like when it comes to like flooring or anything else, and that is ultimately kind of like what happens. But I'm kind of thinking, when you're trying to scale flooring or any kind of like business, and you have like, let's say like, let's scale it to like 15 vans. That's crazy. That's to really think about that. But let's say you can scale it to like 15 vans, and you got your team out there, like all over the place working. Just to manage 15 vans, let's say you have like a manager in each one or like a supervisor. That means you have 8 hours in the daytime. That means you only have 30 minutes per each of these, supervised vans that you tell, somebody the direction of what they need to be doing and stuff like that. So that means you really can't scale it beyond that unless you hire like managers that could actually manage the supervisors. And before you know it, kind of like works up the chain. This is why you have like big corporations, they work the way they do, because after a while you can't really manage everything yourself, because you're going to be like completely burned out. There's not enough time in a day, and ultimately you're not trying to buy like a business, like a job. You're not trying to like work in it. Like the whole purpose of opening up a business is to take yourself out of the equation and have that company work for you. That means hiring other people. But what I have seen is that is very hard to do. I've read many books where it talks about that it's those families, a lot of times they're struggling, like we're talking about like relationships, like with like wives and husbands. They can't have the time to really spend time like with their family and stuff, because they're always busy at work. And now they're done with their work. Now you got paperwork to do. That means you're going to be back, and you're going to be basically out there like with your family and stuff like that. So anyways, guys, what happens is when a person that's in charge of their business comes home, right? Even though he's got his work that was doing all the work, now he ends up doing all the paperwork, and he's looking for more work. So it's like it's a lot of work, basically, essentially, because you have to find new clients, new jobs, and you have to also maintain everybody's paychecks, the payroll, and you're doing everything. So that means you have to like hire all these other people that's doing this work for you, but you can't because you're not making enough money yet. And most companies, for like 5 years, they end up doing all the work themselves. I even looked at the car dealerships, and like when they start out and they're doing all these things, a lot of times they are in the business like it's a family business, like it's a husband or a wife actually working it. Maybe they hire like a mechanic, but they don't have time. They don't have money to actually hire a salesperson or a bookkeeper or somebody that actually does the stuff for them. They can't afford to. So I'm like looking at same thing like with Expedite. Once you get to like 16 vans, you have 30 minutes per each driver. Like you're talking about like booking loads. That means you can only talk 30-minute stops to one single driver. And this means not only talking to him, because you don't need to be talking to him, but this could be like making a phone call, asking him if he wants to load, asking him if he wants to load again, or telling him, like a piece of information which you want him to do, which could be like really quickly. Also, for that same guy, you're answering a phone call from a shipper or, like a broker. You're receiving a phone call. Plus, that 30 minutes goes into the time where you have to book the load for that specific driver. So that means your time is completely stretched. You literally cannot sit there. If you're like one person in a company, you cannot, like 15 drivers is actually, or 16, it's actually very tough to maintain. Most likely you're going to be like down to like 7 or 8, and you're still going to be kind of busy. So if you want to scale, you got to have like, again, employees. That means you have to have office space, and you just go on and on and on. So like any kind of business that you do requires all of your time. This is why you got to like stay focused like in that one specific thing. And don't get me wrong, guys. All of these businesses that I talked about, they're great. to do. Like, I'm not saying like anything negative about them, but what I am trying to do is figure out for myself, and sometimes maybe you have to ask yourself, could your time be spent better doing something else? Could you like be doing something else with your time, which is more productive, and ultimately you're gonna end up making more money? And for a lot of us, you'll probably say, no, I don't know what that is. But for me, I know what it is. I know that I can. There's other things that I could be doing. Like, for instance, if I was to basically do like real estate investing, and let's say like I have all my vans, right? And when I would buy like a property, like an investment for cash flow, I would basically, instead of focusing on making that money like one time from a single client, you do like some kind of like hardwood floor job or something else. Instead, you're focusing on a bigger picture. You get in there, buy a house, do the job, rent it out, and now you're creating cash flow pretty much with that property. Like, once it's done, like, that's the way I see it. Like, it makes you money instead of like you make that one time cash, for doing that like floors or whatever. You continue to make that money, and I could kind of see that if I get to that place where I could actually have like 5 investments in different type of locations, then it means I could have teams at each location with my sprinter vans that are fixing up the property the way I want them to fix it up, with my direction. And I look at it, and it's actually not too bad because they're answering to me. We don't have to worry about a client that potentially will not like the way you fix up the property, or they want a refund, or you're dealing with all those problems. Of course, having tenants, it's no easy task. I mean, that deserves its own video, which I would actually like to make. But basically, I see that it worth your time to just fix the property one time, put a tenant in there, let the tenant keep making you money on that single property. That's, creating your cash flow, and then you focus on the next one. Instead of like fixing like 30 different jobs, you collected that money, you paid your stuff, you made a little money for yourself, and that's it. If you kind of like divide that money, throughout the year, it's actually not that much of a big deal because you also have to buy tools, supplies, and all this other good stuff. Same thing I see that for like sprinter vans. If I was to buy a sprinter van and I fix it up and I sell it one time, it's actually not profitable at all. Like, I did that before, like, and I tried to actually sell it, and I know that I cannot sell it at $7,000 and actually make a profit on these used sprinters, even though probably $7,000 is either at market value or a little bit above or a little bit below market value. I've seen some sell for $15,000 or more. They're nicely painted, and you know why? Because it costs like $5,000 to $7,000 to get the thing painted. If you're gonna hire a professional, like I just talked to one of my viewers, he priced his sprinter van to get painted. He's gonna spend $5,000 to get it painted. So his van actually looks super nice, and the reason it's gonna cost him $5,000 because his van looks like it's brand new. He's just one of those guys that he wants to maintain like it's brand new from factory. He maintains it every single year. Like, does not have no rust in the van. It looks beautiful. This is one of the reasons it's only going to cost him $5,000. So normally it would cost like probably like $7,000. And of course the choice of paint makes a difference. His van is going back white, so obviously it's a little bit cheaper. Let's say if you choose a Corvette paint job, that is going to be even more. So, you look at that. So that means if I get a used van, even if I pay $2,000, it's probably broken. I got to put in an engine that could be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. I'm already $8,000 in. It would not make any sense for me to now fix it up and actually to sell it. So anytime I would fix a sprinter van, because it's such a large body, such expensive parts, and everything that goes into it, I feel that this is a workhorse. I can't sell my workhorse or kill the workhorse for meat, which would be parts, basically. I guess you can, in a sense, but at the same time, everything might not sell, and you have a junkyard before you know, which is a really profitable business, by the way. So, but I see that a sprinter van should be making you money. This is why I still think putting drivers on vans to work for you, like cross country, and a van makes you money, it's still a good idea. The only downside with that is now like workman's comp is catching up to those guys, and what's happening is some of them get fined like $15,000 and $20,000 because they're basically employees because they're using your own tools, which is a van, and they're getting in trouble. I mean, there's ways of getting around it, like leasing that van to that person. Now it becomes a completely different thing. Um, I guess you would get away with it then, because he's now a contractor that leased a van from you. But a lot of these guys, they want to make sure they get paid, so they're telling him which company he could work at, and he gets the money first and then pays the driver. So I think that could be contradictory a little bit, because if he's a contractor, he should be paying you, sort of. So, but this is nothing new. It's the same thing with Uber. If you look at their structure, the way they do stuff is basically they have a bunch of contractors on these cars, and they're able to get away with a lot of stuff. So you could probably use Uber as an example, like what they do and how they do it, because essentially, well, Uber drivers, they own their cars, so yes, they're contractors outright. It's not like they're driving your own car. So you might, with Sprinter vans, if you're gonna rent them out, you have to pretty much become a rental company, which means you sort of have to have like a dealership license, which means you have to have a location. Again, I qualify. I have that. So possibly the future for me. But looking at all these things, guys, just like weighing everything out, like I'm looking at, if I'm creating a business, it needs to be cash flow. It needs to make money while I sleep. And I already see like several ways this could be done. It's just really hard, to actually put everything into place, to actually do everything that I want to do. I'm working very hard to really get to that point, guys. So anyways, guys, I could sit here and talk all day about this stuff. I really hope I make sense to you, because this is definitely kind of like a while, for these videos, and it is my way of thinking. It's like brainstorming, and I know ultimately you might be thinking like, well, okay, like what's the point? But the point is, a lot of you could be doing something else with your time. It's a lot more valuable, and you can actually make more money. Whether you know what that is yet, it's up to you. But the way I see is that it is better to make money doing something you really enjoy, instead of like doing something for money that you don't enjoy, if that makes sense. So for me, I highly enjoy making these YouTube videos. Even making like ads for like microphones like this, or anything else that I get sent, or like shooting commercials, stuff like that. Am I good at it yet? Like I probably am good, but I'm not great yet. I am still learning when it comes to that, but I'm trying to get better and better as I go. But essentially, I want to do something, if it's like work wise, like making videos. This is like obviously, this is actually cash flow. Once I actually put the video out there, it keeps generating me ad revenue, as long as the video is posted, unless I delete it. And also, if there's sponsorships, they could be paying me, which is cash flow. So right now, I see that my three ways of thinking, it's clashing. Like one of them is physical, which is like actually using your hands to do the work. Another one is actually cash flow by actually making investments, and another one is cash flow just by simply, like, I'm really not making an investment. I just simply make a video, and it doesn't cost me anything except my time, and it just sort of like makes me money and get sponsorship. Like, I have to choose between these things, and none of these things really is right now making me that much money to where it's impacting. But I could see that in the next probably three to 5 years, this YouTube thing for me, and when I'm saying YouTube, I mean like this whole videography thing is gonna completely take over. It means I'm gonna get like brand deals, sponsorships, and YouTube ad revenue, other platforms that I would be on. I'll sort of be able to monetize my information. So possibly, where my future lies is just being basically like on TV, which is YouTube, your phone screen or whatever. That's what I mean. And then having to create shows and then just monetize all these platforms. Probably have like audiobooks available, training courses and stuff like that. I see that this is a way for me. This is really natural thing for me to talk about. Working with my hands, maybe like not so much, but I could also see myself doing real estate investments. It is a high priority on my list. How I will do them will be determined, because there's many ways of going about it. But I would like to create cash flow, because property appreciates over time, and when you create cash flow, 30 years from now, that property is going to be like paid off, or even sooner, and you're going to keep generating cash flow. Well, you could also sell your positions and make money that way. But ultimately, I really enjoy making money. I just want to make it on my terms. How about you? So anyways, guys, comment below if you know what you guys think, and stuff like that. I would like to hear from you guys. And if this video helped you, like to get your balls rolling, like to really think, let me know, because this is not like the whole idea. This is kind of like pretty much a brainstorming session. So anyways, guys, nice talking to you guys. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Take care of yourself.
My name is Serge ZIMALETA. I'm 37 years old, and yes, I experienced success after buying my first home for cash. Back in 2011, I was broke, but I learned to solve problems on my own. Now I'm helping others to solve their problems. I know what pitfalls to avoid to stay profitable in business. Need motivation to be more successful in your life? Do you have sprint or expedite or business problems? Then subscribe. Let's find creative solutions to your problems. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of my helpful videos.